Hey Invictus people, measles versus chickenpox. I don't know about you, but I always get these two confused. But I think I've thought of a way that's going to help me and therefore might help you in remembering the difference between these two. So over on this side, we've got measles. Measles is a worse disease than chickenpox. It's more infectious, people get sicker, the mortality rate is higher, it has worse complications. So measles used to kill 2 or 3 million people a year, now only about 100,000 because of vaccination, and as part of that measles, mumps, rubella vaccination. And remember, this is the vaccination which started this whole vaccines cause autism thing. It was in the Lancet, then it was pulled because it was fraudulent. And it's been studied multiple times since then. These vaccines do not cause autism, but they do save lives. So if you look at any pictures of measles in kids, they look sick because it's a miserable disease. They look really sick, and the rash is classic, and this is what you need to remember with measles. It sort of starts on the head and neck, particularly behind the ears, maculopapular, and then it spreads down the body classically into the limbs, onto the chest, down into the legs, and then fades. You're infectious for about 4 days before and about 4 days after the rash starts. It is super duper infectious. It has an R naught of like 18. Respiratory droplets. Everybody in the room who walks in there for the next few hours is probably going to get measles. Now, measles is and I don't know how to pronounce this, a paramyxoviridae family or morbilliform virus. It also used to be called rubeola. So it's a disease that makes you feel terrible, and then it has the complications. So you can get pneumonia. That pneumonia can be directly from the measles virus itself, which is very bad, or secondary infection, bad, high mortality rate. It can produce an acute encephalitis, bad, high mortality rate, occurs in about 1 in 1,000 people. And then it can produce this weird autoimmune thing, subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, which occurs a long time later, years and years later. There's no actual treatment for measles. It's supportive only, which is a bit of a problem. Let's go over now and talk about chickenpox, which is varicella virus. So it's a herpes virus. This tends to make people not as sick as measles. It produces those little vesicle lesions, particularly on the face, chest, back. Doesn't tend to spread like measles. As I said, you're usually not as sick with this one as you are with measles. Incubation period is for a couple of days before, and then you're stay infectious until the last of the lesions has scabbed over and healed. Because it's a herpes virus, this is the one that can go back into your motor roots and then come out as zoster later on, classically when you're immune suppressed or over the age of 60. There's now a vaccine for that. And that zoster, just like the chickenpox, is infectious as well. Because it's a herpes virus, you can actually treat this in high-risk people with acyclovir, valcyclovir. There is also an immune globulin which you can give to high-risk kids or high-risk pregnant people or immune suppressed people, which you can't actually do with the old measles. It can also produce pneumonia. It can also produce encephalitis, but much less common and much less severe than the old measles. Now, the other thing I should say about measles is complex spots. They're those white little jobbies that you can get in your mouth, and that can predate the rash. So they might come in, they've got sort of arthralgias, fever, and then you see the complex spots and like, dude, you're going to get a rash tomorrow. It's going to start on your head and go down. So let me summarize again. Measles is the worst disease. Measles has the classic rash that starts on the top and spreads down. Classically does not involve the palms and soles, whereas chickenpox does. Sicker disease, more encephalitis, more pneumonia, much more higher death rate, bad, bad, bad. Nothing really to treat it with. The old chickenpoxity pox, more of those vesicles, not as bad a disease. We can treat it if we get it early with things like acyclovir and immune globulin. And I think that's all we need to know for now. But out. This was, Invictus Reviews. Lots of stuff going on. More to tell you soon. Did that help? It helped me. There's a big outbreak occurring in Texas right now because there's a bunch of people who are not vaccinated. 2 deaths already, all in the unvaccinated. Both of them, I should say. Both in the unvaccinated. It's a bad disease, and we've forgotten how bad this disease is because we've been vaccinating. But there's some people out there who believe vaccines are bad. It's because they don't really know how bad the disease is. The disease, measles, is horrible and super infectious. Hope it out.